the Dallas Cowboys, this Lindy's magazine's picking them to finish second in the division. Okay, now let me go back to their. They fired Matt Eberflus last season. I didn't realize this, but their defense was historically bad last year. I mean, one of the worst defenses of all time at any level. Here's my thing, though. So they fired Matt Eberflus, but they hired this guy, this very young guy, 34. I made a comment about this before about their young defensive coordinator here. And he's like a secondary coach here from, see if I got his name here. Yeah, Christian Parker. He's like a secondary coach from the Eagles. Again, 34 years old. Do you want this guy taking on a project like the Dallas Cowboys, who were just awful at times from a defensive standpoint there? Now, listen, they had made some big pushes here. I made some notes here, but I don't know why Jerry Jones wouldn't add an experienced defensive coordinator. There's guys like Leslie Frazier that was out there. Okay, this Christian Parker guy, like I said, he's never been a coordinator before. He hasn't even been a secondary coach that long. Now, of course, he's working under Vic Fangio, comes over from the Eagles. Kudos to him for getting a coordinator job at that age. Now, hey, listen, sometimes coordinators turned out to be very good coaches and end up being head coaches. They're just very smart football minds. Sean McVay comes into play when you think about he was hired really young as a head coach, and he's one of the best coaches in the NFL. Okay, now that being said, like I said, Leslie Frazier, former Bills defensive coordinator in 21, they was first in defense, actually. Believe it or not, I went back and looked at that. So when he's had players, and they've got some big-name players that they brought in, Rashawn Gary they brought in the offseason at defensive end. They made the mid-season trade for the Jets, Quentin Williams, a defensive tackle. They drafted Caleb Downs, which is a very good player there, safety there. Man, he's going to be one of their best safeties since maybe a Roy Williams, somebody like that. Some of you older Cowboy fans remember Roy Williams, University of Texas player, I want to say. Played at safety there for a number of years now. But they didn't want to do that. They give this guy with no experience, and it just questions, I don't know if the defense is going to get that much better. I know they drafted also with the 23rd pick. What is this guy's name? Malachi Lawrence there from UCF. Nick Saban was called on a hot mic saying, man, this guy's a reach. Remember that during the draft? That clip went viral there. So I'm just not really sure. That being said, yes, their offense at one point was the number one offense in the NFL last year. George Pickens will be on a franchise tag this year. He's going to be playing his guts out to get that big contract. And, of course, you got him and CeeDee Lamb. Dak is playing his best football of his career with Ferguson. So they got a decent offensive line here. They can score with any of them, the best of them in the league. But, listen, I went back and looked after they made that trade there. And after they made that trade last year, which was around the trade deadline sometime in November, per se, you look at their last few games here, they gave up 28 Thanksgiving Day. They did win that game, but I want to say they still gave up 28 to Kansas City, 44 to Detroit the next week, 34 and a loss to Minnesota the week after that, 34 after that to the LA Chargers with no offensive line. Washington, they did beat Washington 30-23. And, so it just bad game after bad game. You said, well, they've added more players. They added Gary, and they've added Caleb Daniels, and they've got this other first-round pick. So I look back at their actual starters and returning starters from last year on that defense. It was really bad for Cowboys. 7 players are still back from last year's team. So And then you've got this very young Christian Parker, the 34-year-old, extremely young. You could have brought back Wade Phillips if Wade Phillips is still coaching. I know he is old guy, 70-something year, maybe 80. You could have brought him back just to coach the defense. He's going to help you with the run defense. There's a number of coaches that Jerry Jones and that ownership could have went out and got. So I don't know why they did this. I'm just questioning this coordinator here, So I'm just not sure. How this Cowboys team is going to turn out. I thought maybe that the defense will be much better, but I'm just not so sure about that. So here's the schedule as I put it out here. And they were 7-9-1. Remember, they had that one tie last year. So this year, I think they're going to lose opening weekend. I know Dak plays well against the Giants, but I think they'll lose that opening weekend against the Giants here. And listen, they got to play at Houston, number one defense in the league last year, player for player, at Green Bay. They don't match up well against Green Bay. We know how that goes. That could be a potential revenge game, but I got them actually winning that game because they have extra time off October 18th. Then you got them playing at Philadelphia on a Monday night. They do have Philly. I got them split with Philly, but they got to play at Seattle, at the Rams, best team in the league, likely. Jacksonville this time of year. A very good Jacksonville team. Remember, they won 13 games. They got to play Baltimore and Rio de Janeiro, which I think is in Brazil. Kind of a wild game there. So all that, after you shuffle out all that, playing these NFC North teams, along with the NFC West, okay, I've got this team. Did I say AFC North? Let's see. Yeah, Baltimore. No, it's just one AFC North team. I'm sorry. Excuse me. Check that. The NFC West, they definitely played the whole division there. And some NFC South, AFC South teams as well with Tennessee. All that being said, I've got them going 10-7. So they're going to be a borderline, what do you call it? They'll be a wild card level team.